So how do you find the perfect moment to quit drinking? That moment when the stars align and life feels great and it's exactly where you want it to be and there's nothing else going on to distract you and you feel totally primed for success and ready to make this happen. Well, I don't know about you, but I've never actually met anyone who's had the luxury of quitting drinking in those circumstances. And logically, we all know that there is no such thing as a perfect moment for anything. We know that life is messy and there's always something going on. But yet, it's really easy to get caught up in this inner dialogue about how now isn't the right time. Or at least, I know that's what happened for me anyway. I've been alcohol-free for 7 years now, but before I quit, I must have wasted so much time waiting for this mythical perfect moment to come along so I could take action and listen to some special sign from the universe that this was the time. And there always seemed to be a really compelling reason why I just needed to wait a few more months. And if I did that, then things would be better or easier or different. I know I'm not the only one who's had those thoughts. In fact, normally at this time of year, I get emails from people who are very unhappy with their drinking and they really, really want to change, but they've got a big holiday coming up and they can't imagine doing that sober. It feels overwhelming to them. Or perhaps they've got some weddings to go to or some big party that they're hosting. You know, we do tend to be a bit more sociable in the summer and the weekends can quickly get filled with one thing and another. However, this year, most of us aren't going anywhere. Thanks to the coronavirus, our holidays have largely been cancelled. Weddings have been postponed and most social events aren't really happening. But guess what? I am still hearing from a lot of people who are really unhappy with their drinking, who really want to change, but they're convinced that this isn't the right time. They just want to wait to get through the summer first, or wait until the kids go back to school, or wait until we know whether this second peak is going to happen, or until there's more certainty and that work project's finished and that other, event is out the way, or when they're feeling more confident and less tired and more focused. You get what I mean? And obviously, I'm not sharing any of this from a place of judgment because I have been there myself. I understand the appeal of thinking that way. But I also know that if you keep waiting for the perfect moment, you're going to be waiting for a really long time. And like I said right at the beginning, the logical part of you knows that. But then there is this other part of you that feels really, really drawn to the idea of just waiting and not taking any action. So if any of this sounds like you, here's what I want to invite you to think about. What if there was no such thing as a perfect moment, but there was a perfect perspective and a way of looking at things? So here's a really good example of this. Back in April, I ran another session of my Stop Drinking course, my 6-week class, and it had been in the diary for months. But obviously when I scheduled it, I hadn't known it was going to coincide with the peak of a global pandemic and the lockdown and all that craziness that was happening. And I did think about postponing it, but I decided to go ahead on that date because I knew a lot of people had been waiting for it to start practically since the new year. And I was right, there was still a massive interest in it. But here's what I noticed. The people who went ahead and joined the class were so happy to be there because they decided that it was the perfect moment to quit. They didn't want to be worrying about their drinking on top of everything else that was going on. The lockdown meant they weren't being invited to parties. They weren't going out to bars. In fact, no one else had to know that they were stopping drinking at all. They were spending more time at home, so they could find the time to do the class. And they kind of loved this idea of coming out the other side of this pandemic, having achieved something they were really proud of. So that's what they were thinking. However, at the exact same time as they were saying that, I was also getting comments from people on Facebook who were saying things like, "What? Why are you doing this now? Don't you know we're in the middle of a global pandemic? We're in lockdown. This is the absolute worst time to quit drinking." Now, I'm not saying that one perspective is right and one is wrong, because it's just not as simple as that. And actually, I think if I had to, I could probably argue for both sides, for and against. We can do that at any time, in any situation. But my question for you would be, of those two perspectives which I described, which one is the most helpful? Which one serves you best? Which one brings you the most potential in this season or this year? Which one is going to help you get closer to where you want to be? We often can't control what's happening around us. We can't control the circumstances, but we can control the way we respond to them and the meanings we create and the perspectives we take on them. And perhaps you're thinking, oh, well, actually there is an advantage to thinking that this is the wrong time and telling myself that, because then it protects me from the risk of trying and failing. And I do understand that line of thinking, I really do. But when we go down that path, we miss the fact that by not taking action, we are still staying stuck in this place that we don't want to be in anyway. If you were happy with that status quo, you wouldn't be here, you wouldn't be watching this video. So I wanted to talk about perspectives today, because during tough and uncertain times, it's really easy to romanticize how things were before or how much easier things might be in the future. But the reality is that there will always be something. There will always be a reason why now isn't the right time, and there will always be a reason why this is the right time. And if your drinking is making you miserable, if it's holding you back in some way or stopping you from living the life you want to, then I would suggest that this is the right time. And the secret to success? Well, it's really just to start before you're ready. So I'd love to hear from you right now. Where are you with your sober goals at the moment? How are you feeling about taking a break from drinking? Wherever you're watching this, scroll down and leave me a comment, and I look forward to talking to you again next week.